Welcome to the Nonprofits and Media Podcast, where we talk to leaders involved with media inside a variety of nonprofit organizations about the different ways they approach marketing and communications. I'm Nathan Pfaff, and my job is to tease out what benefits or results they've seen in their content strategy so that you can apply those to your own life or organization. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Nonprofits and Media. Today we're going to be talking with Aaron Brown. Aaron is the Chief Marketing Officer for Destiny Rescue International, a nonprofit that helps rescue children from human trafficking and sexual exploitation and helps them stay free. Aaron also worked in sales and marketing at a few different companies before joining Destiny Rescue in 2016. Aaron and his team have produced multiple different documentary films about the rescue work their organization does, a few of which have won awards at various film festivals. Aaron had so much great advice in this episode, including the difference between using marketing for inspiration, not manipulation. You're not going to want to miss it. Everyone, please enjoy this episode with Aaron Brown. Aaron, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast today. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. Any chance I get to talk about the work of Destiny Rescue and how we use media in marketing to tell stories. And then anyway, I love that opportunity to do so. So thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, I'm very excited. It'll be great to hear about the work that you guys do. To start us off, you once told me about a story that included life insurance. So if you remember that, why don't you kick us off with that? And
So Destiny Rescue, we rescue children from sexual exploitation and human trafficking. And then when we get the opportunity to, we help them stay free. And so our work looks very different depending on wherever you are around the world. We work in 5 regions of the world, and we do covert rescue, we do raid operations, we do community canvassing based off of informants and information we get from people in the community about kids being exploited right there in their community. So we do a variety of things to rescue kids. One of them is raid operation, and one of them in particular, and we actually created a film about this, but it's probably the most dangerous operation our teams have done. But it was in the Philippines, and it was a compound out in the middle of nowhere, and all of the intelligence said that there were weapons, that the security and the muscle had weapons. The pimps were known to be dangerous and to be violent. And our teams in the Philippines work very closely with law enforcement. So we have wonderful relationships with anti-trafficking police and the Philippine National Police. And so anyway, in conducting this operation, some of our team were actually trained by law enforcement on how to use a gun. Not something normally our teams do. Our teams aren't typically packing weapons, but because of the proposed danger here in this particular raid, the police wanted our teams to be trained on being able to use one if needed. So the night of the raid, we're talking about military support, busload of people. So you have the first team that goes in, and they've got personnel surrounding the place, and there's a second bus or second vehicle of people traveling in, and of agents that when the go signal's given to conduct the raid, everybody will run in. Well, on the way to the location that night, our founder Tony and our lead rescue agent were on their phone looking up life insurance. And that was just how dangerous that particular one. And these two guys have done many rescues. They've done many rescue operations over the years, but this particular one, they literally thought, wow, this could be the last one. And so they literally were searching up life insurance as they traveled to the operation. And thankfully the operation was successful, and I can't remember, a lot of kids were rescued, pimps were arrested, and there was a happy ending to that particular story. But that's the impact that we have, right? We've been a part of over 15,000, seeing over 15,000 individuals rescued, and most of them children. But, in the pursuit of children, our focus is finding children. But in the pursuit of children, we often get a chance to help adults and find adults who are also being trafficked. So we're really committed to playing a leading role in trying to end the sexual exploitation of children over our lifetime. And the stories are endless.
Yeah.
Stories are endless of this broken, horrific situation that kids find themselves in, and then watching them walk into those first steps of freedom that potentially lead to going back to school and having a job where they don't have to use their body, and where they're not, abused night after night, and they're able to provide for their family, and they go on to have families themselves. Anyway, it's just a wonderful story to be a part of. And we've had great impact thus far, but we believe there's well over 1 million children still out there exploited, and we have a lot more work to do.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing an amazing job. And just, did you say that that specific instance was documented in a film that you guys have produced? Or
yes,
the name of it?
We've created a few. So we have a small library of documentaries that we've done, and that particular one was called Operation Phantom. And it's about a 30-minute short documentary that follows that case from beginning to end. And you actually in the film will see them on their phone looking up life insurance.
Yeah, I actually I went back and watched some of these documentaries that you guys have produced in preparation for this talk, and one of the things that struck me was that you guys have like hidden cameras on their body when they go and do these raids, and more so than just like great footage to have afterwards to make a film about or for promotional purposes. Like the footage that they're recording is actually primary evidence that is used to be able to stop these perpetrators. And so it's like essential evidence that they need to be collected is a lot of this footage. So what do you guys do? You must have like a huge backlog of like all these footage and raids and things.
Yeah. So most of the filming we do in an undercover situation is 100% for the case and the case buildup, gathering the evidence that we need in order to potentially turn it over to the police in a raid situation, so that there's enough there to get the police to act on it. Like we do a lot of building of cases in a raid, especially in a raid situation. We do a lot of building of cases, and then we turn it over to our partners at law enforcement and say, here it is. Here's all the video evidence. Here's all the photo evidence. Here's all the audio evidence that proves that children are being sold and abused here. And so rarely do we go do that type of filming for promotional purposes or for anything other than case buildup. So most of what we use in our films is actual stuff that was, if it's undercover stuff, it is case buildup material that's used to hopefully build the case, execute the case, and then hopefully can be used in court if charges are taken against the trafficker, which we always hope are, but unfortunately isn't always the case depending on the country. So we do build a big, we do build a library of B-roll, and we're very sensitive to that material and how it gets protected, so that it doesn't end up in the hands of the wrong people and being used out of context. We always protect the children, and protecting them by using blurring and what we would call anonymization, so that people, we don't want to further exploit them. And so we're very careful about how we handle that. But yeah, our agents capture a lot. There's a lot that we don't even use that get captured on a daily basis for use of case buildup. So we're fortunate from a filmmaking perspective that when we do try to put together a story after the fact, even there's usually some footage that can be used to help tell that story in a visual medium, because they're always filming and always capturing what they can during the case.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've been really encouraged to see how you guys have turned that also into long form, 30-minute documentaries, even longer, not just short things, but being able to repurpose some of that stuff that's, again, primarily evidential stuff for the work that then you're able to also use to further the work. So
yeah, I mean, listen, we have a lead filmmaker who, at times, we will send him with the camera, and he's using undercover cameras, but then he's also filming, police briefings, case briefings. He's filming with the camera. We always ensure we get approval, from our law enforcement partners, government agencies we might be working with, always to ensure that we're not putting a camera where we're not supposed to put a camera. And so it's a really good balance of production, like, hey, let's film this interview. It's not like talk about the case, but we're setting up the scene and we're setting up the good lighting and all the things, right? It's production. And then in the moment, case build up, raw. And I think we had some success being able to take both of those mediums and kind of put them together to put together some really great, powerful documentaries to help, show the work that our organization does, and hopefully bring to light the reality of human trafficking and child trafficking, because there's a lot of perceptions. The movie versions aren't always accurate. And so we feel like we have a responsibility as an organization to try to help people see the reality of this issue.
Yeah. And your most recent film, I believe, that you guys released was Operation Goldilocks, right? Do you want to tell us a little?
Yeah. So that film, we actually, it's a little bit of an older film, but we remastered it recently and added. So we had filmed it. We had first kind of rolled it out into a it was a multi-episode series that we just put on Facebook. And it was a way for us to try to engage with Facebook audiences. And we launched a new episode on Friday. And we decided to put it all together, recut it. We remastered sound, added some new footage, added some new drone imagery, and decided to kind of put it back out there because it was such a small number of people who saw it initially. We've grown a lot since then, so we shared that, and it's been received wonderfully, and we submitted to a few film festivals, Christian film festivals in particular, that we received nominations in, and just a great platform for more people to learn about this issue and see our work.
Yeah. And I know we met at a film festival, and what you were showing the film, You Are Beautiful, back then. Why do you think, I think that's a brilliant move to kind of get your guys' content outside of just your organization's platforms, get more bigger audience, more awareness. Why do you think more like organizations, nonprofits don't do things like that, like take it to film festivals or?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, one, I feel like we at Destiny Rescue, and me as the chief marketing and communications officer for the organization, is very blessed to have somebody like Tim Lovell, our lead videographer, filmmaker. He's a filmmaker. I mean, that's what he is. He is a documentary filmmaker, unbelievable storytelling. And so, one, we're really fortunate to have him on our team. He could be working in a lot of other places, obviously making a lot more money, because, nonprofit work, it's not easy, and we don't always have the resources to be able to do everything we want to do. And so we're really fortunate to have somebody with his skill level and passion. And I don't think everyone is that fortunate. But he has worked on many documentaries in his past, and his ability to tell the story and the quality in that, we just said we have to, listen, we've been really successful in building our brand within our brand, right? So in our social, we built a really great Facebook presence, and we can share our stuff there, and we can share it with our donors. But there's a lot of kids out there that need help. And so how do we help enlighten, inform, educate, create awareness about this issue? How do we get masses of people to have their eyes open to the realities of this issue? And so we said, hey, films is a way to do that. We have a gifted filmmaker. We have a wonderful story, and let's take that and find ways to craft stories that people can be impacted by. And we have big visions and big dreams, and we believe the quality of our work is as good as anything that's out there, and we really strive for world-class quality in our media. And again, it's being done by a very small team of people. Like Tim is largely a one-man wrecking crew. We have a second videographer who's joined our team recently to help continue and give us another camera and another person who can help tell the stories. So I think some of it's limited resources. How do you make a 30-minute documentary? Do you have somebody who has the capacity to do that knows how to tell a good story, that's willing to put in the time and energy? I think it's a great way to find a whole new audience of people who, if you can get your films, and this is what we hope to accomplish, but if you can get your films on the largest platforms,
yeah,
what's to say that 1 million people can't sit down and watch a documentary about the realities of kids being trafficked, and hopefully be moved to say, wow, like I should know more about this organization of people who's working to rescue them. And, it's the beginning, it's the top of the funnel, right? Think about the traditional marketing funnel. It is, it's awareness. We've got to get more people to be aware of this issue and to be aware of the work of Destiny Rescue, and films and documentaries, I think, is a great way to do that.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to come back to the funnel in a sec. But first, you touched on something about repurposing older content. I think that's so valuable. And I noticed that one of the most recent posts on your YouTube page at the time of this recording was another documentary you guys had done, Operation Kingpin, just renamed and reposted more recently. Is that something you guys do often, is like repurposing old content, or is this kind of a newer initiative?
It is. I mean, it's something I would like us to continue to get better at, because, when we create content, whether it's written content or video content, we always create it with, can it be used in multiple ways, right? So I prefer not to create video content for one campaign, for one marketing campaign, and then when the campaign's over, that video gets put in the archive and it never gets used again. Can we create media that there's many places that it can be used at different times and different places? With our documentaries in particular, one, we didn't embrace YouTube years ago like I would have hoped. And it was before I joined the organization. We had made some decisions that Vimeo was going to be the place where we focused posting our videos. And so we made a concerted effort over the last few years to start taking things that maybe didn't get much traction on YouTube or never made it to YouTube. We're starting to put some of those things out there as we continue to grow, as our name recognition and brand continue to grow. We continue to try to say, hey, there's a really great film here that we're much larger than we were 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Why don't, in some instances they're remastered, and some instances they're not. It's just a kind of relaunch and putting it out for hopefully a new audience to people. And I think it's a mistake that we, as marketers and as media creators, make sometimes, is that we think, well, that thing's out there. That film is out there and it's been seen. But we're really talking about a small percentage of people who've probably actually seen it and engaged with it. And we have to start figuring out how we can reintroduce it to a new group of people, whether it's in a new platform. The more media that we can create where we can keep bringing it back and not just thinking, oh, well, I put it on Facebook, everyone's seen it, there's no sense in bringing it back. I just think that's a mistake that we make, because we know the way the algorithms work and the way that, there's just a lot of people who still don't see it, and you have to find ways to keep putting it back in front of them, especially when it's good quality content that you feel like people will be impacted by.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, repurposing, I think, is so important. I've worked at an ad agency where that was essentially the whole business model, is taking older ads that they had done and maybe changing like the first 15 seconds or the first intro and then putting it back out. And the only thing that's different is the beginning, and then everything else is just an ad that they had run in the past. And so I love how you guys are also thinking outside the box, both with repurposing old content and then also submitting to things like film festivals, just to try to get more eyes on your...
More eyes, right? More eyes, more... we need more people to know what's going on, and we need more people to know about our organization. We are very successful in the work that we do. We don't necessarily have the name recognition that others have in this space, in this industry, and our goal is to change that. How can we get more eyes on the work, the stories, and then this organization, he's working really hard to make a difference in rescuing these kids and helping them step into freedom. And you can't always do it the way you've always done it. You've got to find, new, I don't know. I'm not a fisherman by any stretch of the imagination, Nathan, but I love the analogy of, at some point you have to go to a different fishing spot and drop your line in. If you're fishing in the same place, you're typically going to capture the same type of fish or the same number of fish. You have to be willing to go try new places, try new bait, new lures, new things to help you continue to attract. And I feel like that's what we did a few years ago with You Are Beautiful, and saying, hey, this is the first documentary that we should go put it at a film festival somewhere. And it won, got nominations and won awards and was well received. And, we have plans to kind of repurpose that again and put it, because again, the world's different. We're bigger. I think we're smarter. We know how to use things a little bit better than maybe we did 3-4 years ago. And so we're hoping to repurpose that in the days and weeks and months ahead as well.
Nice. Well, you mentioned the sales and marketing funnels. So what would be like the top of funnel for you guys? How are potential partners finding your organization? Would it be these films? Would it be word of mouth? What would you say?
Yeah. So when I think about the funnel, it's actually an hourglass is my version of the funnel. Like, we can talk a little bit about that if you want, but obviously at the top of that is awareness. And so we really are trying to find just a lot of ways to drive awareness. So documentaries, obviously one of those, social media, getting creative, in how we use reels and carousel images. We will use some paid advertising, when it comes to social, to try to draw, audiences in. our organization. So Destiny Rescue is an affiliate. It's a network of affiliate organizations. So, we have an office in, Destiny Rescue USA is its own entity. And so they're empowered to do their own marketing. And I help provide guidance and support, and our team creates the media that they can use to do that, marketing. So they're doing a lot of their own things, as well as, trying to reach the church and how do we engage the church and go what we would call a rescue Sunday. How do we get the church to rise up on a Sunday morning to say, I want to do something to help kids. So there's a lot of things that we're doing to try to drop, people in the top of that funnel to create awareness. At the bottom of that hourglass is what I refer to as champions, right? So you create this awareness, and then you take them through, right? Everyone goes through this evaluation and consideration phase. I've heard about Destiny Rescue. I have some level of interest. Hopefully we've driven interest and we've helped them get to the website, or they've connected with one of our team members, and they gather information. They watch our films. They read our infographics. They look at our annual reports, right? They're trying to figure out who we are. Are we trustworthy? And then they tend to make a purchase, right? So they make a donation or they sign up for something, right? It's not always about the dollar. There's some action they finally take. And so that's where the funnel ends for me. And then it becomes an hourglass. Now it's going to go back out, and now we have to retain that person. And then we want to grow that person. And eventually we grow them into becoming an advocate for us. And then they become a champion for us. And that champion now they're out telling everybody they know about the work of Destiny Rescue. And they're actually dropping new people into the top of the funnel so that we don't have to spend as much time creating awareness, because we have an army of advocates, of champions who are out there helping to spread the word of mouth that you mentioned, so that we get to invest our resources not solely in that place of awareness anymore. And it takes time to do all of that. And you need really good storytelling. If you think about that hourglass shape, there's an arrow in my graphic that I use that is storytelling, that how storytelling falls all along every piece of that funnel, that hourglass, whether it's awareness, whether they're trying to figure out if we're legit and trustworthy, whether it's connecting them to the impact of their gift, to helping them go deeper in that story so that they now see that they're a part of the work and they're being impacted, and now they want to go tell friends, family, their church, their business about this thing they're a part of. And we get to reap the benefit. One, lots of kids get rescued, first of all. The donors and supporters feel real good about the work they're a part of. And then we get a lot of new potential people in that awareness phase, and that we get to take through the same process.
Yeah. You hit on so many good nuggets in that bit. I want to come back to some of them, but you mentioned building trust with the audience and donors, because they're ultimately the bottom of the hourglass that then takes it back up to the top. So do you have any tools or methods you guys try to implement in order to build trust with potential partners?
Trust is important, right? Everything happens at the speed of trust. And as long as it takes to build it, you can lose it so much quicker, right? And so, I think for us, I really focusing it on my world in the marketing and the storytelling and the content. We focus on what we would refer to as an ethical storytelling model. We want to be culturally aware to how we tell stories, right? You were talking about countries all over the world. We want to be in tune to the culture of that country, how things are perceived, how things should be shared. We're very much child-centered, right? I'm always thinking about the children first, their protection. Can we honor them? How do we, if my team was telling a child's story and the girl was sitting in the front row listening to that story be told, would she be honored by how we told her story, or would she feel victimized? We don't want her to feel victimized. We don't want her to be embarrassed. We want to tell the story in the best way possible that protects her and honors her. And so what we found is by focusing on this ethical storytelling model that really centers also on transparency and accurate portrayal of our work, of the issue, it starts to lead to that trust when you're sharing the stories that way. We get a lot of people who reach out thanking us for how we tell the story. And it builds, we're not trying to make it sound more heroic. We're not trying to what we would say over sensationalize it. We want to show you the real. And we're not perfect. And our goal is to try to be as transparent as possible. There's no manual on how to rescue children. We've had a lot of trial and error. We've made mistakes. We learn, we adapt, we change. And I think there's something to that model that helps to build trust when people feel like it's real. It's not a movie. They're not telling me what I want to hear. They're not embellishing it. And so we really pride ourselves in trying to really hone in on that, what we would refer to as ethical storytelling, and that helps build trust. Now, our teams do a lot of other things. All of our funding nation teams have donor services teams that are really working hard to build relationships and to support and to value our donors. In my space, I talk to my team all the time around inspiration, not manipulation. And when you think about marketing, a lot of times marketing is manipulation.
It's true.
And I want to inspire people to take action. I don't want to manipulate them, make them feel guilty, try to embellish the story so that it's like, oh my goodness, that we say we're doing this, but we're actually doing that. I never want someone to say, wow, you guys, like, you manipulated me and sold me a bill of goods that this is what you said you do, but you actually do this. And I think people see that we're striving for that transparency and that we try to be as raw and real as possible. And I think that builds trust with people.
Yeah. I like that, inspiration versus manipulation, because I think if people are inspired, then they also stick around longer as well, right? It's not just
that's the other part of it, right? Yeah. 100%. I mean, when someone gives a knee-jerk reaction, they're shocked because of something someone put in front of them. You might get the one-time gift in that right there in that moment. You might get it. It's not necessarily sustainable. So for us, it's about sustainability and bringing people in and hopefully them becoming partners with us year over year until we've worked ourselves out of a job, right? I mean, that's the hope, is someday there's no kids being exploited. I mean, that would imagine the world we lived in if that were the case. Yeah. But yeah, it's about inspiring action, and we hope that action isn't just a one-time thing, but a recurring action and a partnership where we get to link arms and fight together in this thing that we're fighting in human trafficking.
Yeah. You mentioned the ethical storytelling and the being transparent. Are there other ways that you have used to like keep donors around and consistent as opposed to just that one-time gift?
Yeah, listen, we made a concerted effort to shift to becoming a you brand and not a me brand a few years ago. And what I mean by that is a lot of it can center around Donald Miller's book, around building a story brand.
Nice.
But it's, instead of saying something like, help us rescue kids, we like to say, you can rescue a child. We want to help put the donor in the story because their gift, no matter of what amount, is actually helping to pull children out of the sex trade or out of an exploited situation. And so that's one way that, how do we make them a part of the story and not just a support person who's giving money to someone else to do the work? I'm actually doing the work. And we recognize that. So you can, and then what we like to then go back to them is, this is what you made possible. You helped rescue this many kids last month. You helped provide this many freedom plans. You helped lead to this many kids graduating from a program. You're doing that. It's not, look at what we did. And, oh, thanks for supporting us. Thanks for helping us. We become the hero of that story. And we really make a concerted effort to try to put the donor in the story. And I think that helps because it's a story that keeps being written because there are lots of kids. So when they can be a part of a rescue, and then they can do it again next month, and I can do it again next month, and oh, look, this raid just happened, and 20 girls were rescued from this raid. I'm a part of that work. I think that helps in retention. And then we've got great team members in all of our countries who are working hard to show value and reaching out and connecting with donors. And whether it's face-to-face meetings or Zoom meetings or emails and text messages, I mean, we're dedicated to that because we know how special donors are to this work and ensuring that kids can be rescued.
Yeah, that's powerful. You mentioned that you guys do run paid ads. So for a while back, I felt like there was kind of this expectation that nonprofits put on themselves of like, the donors want every single dollar to be given to the mission and not overhead or anything like that. So have you guys felt that? Do you feel like people are second guessing or questioning the way that you have put money towards media or things like that?
Listen, I think every nonprofit feels it because it's the unfair expectation that's been created.
Yeah.
I just had this conversation with somebody a few days ago. There's this graphic that passes through social media. I see it every so often of, don't support these nonprofits because they list the salary of the leaders in those nonprofits.
Oh, interesting.
Like, oh, be aware of where your money goes. This CEO of this nonprofit is making, $500,000 a year, whatever it might be. People fail to realize that, like, that particular nonprofit, they have thousands of employees. Like, they are massive. This particular one that was being called out. You're not going to be able to keep a CEO in that role, if you're going to not allow them to pay them for the work, which is running a nonprofit at that scale is no different than running a for-profit at that scale. You have lots of employees, you have locations in every state. And there's this unfair, at times, I think it's unfair, expectation that nonprofits have to function with absolutely no overhead. Now, we try to ensure that as many dollars go to rescuing kids as possible. But we also realize that as long as we can keep an appropriate cost structure in the percentages of how much we're investing, if we can invest in media and we can invest in advertising so that we can bring more people in and ultimately raise more money, as long as those percentages stay in line, then so we feel the pressure because there's a societal expectation that exists, but I don't feel it. We don't have donors and people coming at us about, oh, you guys are doing documentaries, you guys are doing ads. And because I think we've done a good job of managing the cost structure so that, we're not spending 80% of our money raised on marketing and only using 20 of it for the mission. It's still a small percentage. We've made an investment. So my role was a volunteer role until I took it 5 years ago. So internationally, it was a volunteer or a missionary who was raising their own support. And the organization, we just had so many challenges in our ability to tell the story, our ability to manage the website, our social media was non-existent. Like we just weren't very good in letting people know about the work and inviting people in to join us. And the organization made a commitment that, hey, we need to invest here. And I've been able over the last 5 years to build a team, and our rescues year over year continue to increase. Now, that's not, we're not going to pat ourselves on the back and say it's all because of marketing, but I don't think it's a coincidence that when you start investing on trying to let more people know, share the beautiful stories that we're experiencing, helping people see the impact of the money they invested, I don't think it's a coincidence that we raise more money, that we get more donors, that we get more supporters, and because of that growth, then that leads to more rescues. And so you just have to find the right balance, and you have to make hard decisions sometimes. I have a notebook that sits on my desk with a long list of things I would love to do, and it's been sitting there for about 5 years, and someday we might do some of them, but we're trying to do the basics. We're trying to be the best steward of every dollar possible so that at the end of the day, we can help more kids. And the pressure is there, I know, for many nonprofits, because there's just, I think it's an unrealistic expectation of, well, you're a nonprofit, so you can't pay your people well, you can't have the software you need, you can't do media, you can't do these things. And unfortunately, every day, nonprofits are closing their doors and fail to be able to continue their mission because they're held to this standard. They can't actively raise funds, and therefore they can't continue to serve. And then those people that they were serving now are affected and pay the ultimate price because they're not maybe getting the support they needed. But anyway, the pressure exists. We don't feel it from our donor base. And And we do a lot to ensure that our cost structure and percentages stay where they need to be. And we back down and invest when we can, and we back off when the money's not there. And it's worked so far.
Yeah, nice. I kind of am under the impression that the younger generations they're not as keen on the like supporting and giving model as some of the older generations. Do you find that to be true with your organization? And if so, or if not, like how are you trying to reach younger audiences to become partners in your work?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because, listen, young people aren't wealthy in money, but they are wealthy in influence. And sometimes our goals and objectives they're not aligned properly. If your number one objective is try to get a bunch of young people to give you money, there's a good chance you're going to be unsuccessful because they're not wealthy in money. But if you can find a way to activate their influence, because that is where they're wealthy. They got a lot of TikTok followers. They got a lot of Instagram followers. They got a lot of family who grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles support them when they do things. And so if you can find a way to activate them where the wealth lies, I think you have much greater success. And we've seen our teams do that with youth initiatives, trying to find ways to engage youth by having them become advocates, having them do fundraisers, having them give their best yes to what they can do. Adults and boomers and older populations, their wealth is different. And so how do you help them give their best yes with where their wealth lies? And I think the one size fits all approach to how you engage people in your mission, it doesn't work. And, somebody once said that when you try to speak to everyone, you effectively speak to no one. And so knowing who your audience is and how you can activate them in that space is important. And so we've seen a lot of young people get involved with, $5 donation, a $5 a month donation, no donation, but willing to use their youth group at their church or to use their basketball team or their volleyball team at school to dedicate a game to raising awareness and funds. And they're raising enough money to see that one kid gets rescued or 3 kids get rescued just by activating where they are and the thing that they do. And so I think when you have your objectives right and you understand your audience, you can find a way to invite them in and they'll take action. But you have to put some thought into how to do that first.
Yeah. I love that mindset or the framework of they're wealthy with their influence, not necessarily monetarily, but yeah. Is there anything else you
want? Well, no, and I think you can take that mindset with all populations of people, right? Like, think about young parents. Again, where is their wealth might be in money, but their wealth might be someplace else. They're leaders at their church and their youth group. They're young. They're part of parent groups. They're connected to a lot of other parents, and they can't fathom the thought of this type of thing happening to their children. And so they're introducing our documentaries at their parent group because no parent wants this to happen to their children. Well, let me back up. Most parents, unfortunately, we often see parents playing a role in the exploitation. But Anyway,
Yeah.
we so often just want to equate wealth to dollars.
Right.
And some people, it's not cash, it's stocks and bonds, and their wealth is in property and real estate. And you just have to understand how you can invite them into the fight using whatever wealth they have and show them how they can use that to rescue kids. And our teams have been super successful in that.
Yeah. With your content strategy and trying to be effective communicators for the work that you guys do you have any examples of concerns that potential donors might have before giving and how you guys are trying to address those?
Yeah, I mean, there's people who are just skeptical of, listen, human trafficking is a difficult topic, one, for people to talk about. Two, it's very difficult for them to see. Our donors, most of our donors will never, ever get an opportunity to meet and know the kids that they help rescue. If you and I support a local community organization, there's a chance we can go to that community organization and see the new playground equipment that you and I helped fund. And we get to have that experience. We get to validate that. Because we have to protect the children, oftentimes people won't get a chance to meet the children. The children aren't going to be able to say, thank you for helping me. And so the challenge for us is, how do we help bring potential donors close to the work, knowing that they're never going to get that opportunity? So, because they're skeptical, right? Like we say, there's well over 1 million children. How does anybody know? There are numbers out there, that there's nobody going out with a clicker counting how many kids are being sexually exploited. And so our industry sometimes catches flack for that, because there are numbers, and where do those numbers come from? What are the sources of those numbers? And so it's very hard for people to wrap their head around. They can't see it. Depending on where they live in this country, where they live in the world, they might not see it with their own eyes. Now, you could go you could go places and see it with your own eyes and realize it's a real thing. And so for us, helping to just create that validation that this is a real thing and we actually do this work. We get a question a lot: what happens after they're rescued? Right? A lot of people want to know about the healing process, the aftercare process, and so we try to show all of the things that could happen. Rescue makes a lot of things possible. We don't necessarily perform all of the things that we don't provide all the services the child might need to stay free long term. And we partner with many great NGOs and government entities that are experts in helping provide care and things and help the kids with what they need. We do provide that in some locations, but rescue makes all of it possible. But we have to help teams see that, we're not just rescuing and then the next night they're going to go back, because there's no real sustainable solution for them to not be put back in that situation. And so those are a few of the challenges that we have. And listen, in our anonymization and protection of children, rarely in our marketing, if we're using real children, and we try to stay away from stock imagery and things as much as possible, just because we want to be authentic. We use it sometimes when we don't have other options in regards to how to tell a particular story. But you're seeing a blurred face. And sometimes, where's the emotional connection to that potential donor when you have to show them a blurred face? And it's just, again, just a few of the challenges that we look at and say, how can we keep trying to overcome that? How can we bring people close to the work? How can they get to know her without seeing her beautiful smile and the light that exists in her eyes today now that she's been and set free? And so those are hurdles and challenges that we wrestle with daily.
Yeah. No, I know that what happens after the rescue is a big question. And as I was watching Operation Goldilocks, I noticed that once the raid was over, I checked the timestamp and it was only like 3/4 of the way through the film. And so I was like, in a normal, drama movie or something, that'd be like the climax and you'd be almost at the ending. But I noticed that you guys did have that last quarter where it was following up with the victims like 5 or 6 months later. And you could see the change that happened in there. So I saw that you guys were actively trying to show
100%.
Continue.
100%. When we cut that film the first time and we had just the episodic series, there was no follow-up.
Okay.
And then when we had the opportunity to revisit and put it together, we felt like it was a really great, so what now? Like, the build up to this raid, but let us show you what it means for these kids. And, what that looks like is very different in all the countries that we work in. What happens after rescue? Traditionally, one of three things happens. Either they enroll in our program. So we, in some countries, we have services that we provide. We create something called Freedom Plan, and that Freedom Plan is uniquely created to try to address the vulnerabilities and challenges that led that child to be trafficked. And we try to address those and reduce those and put them in a place that allows them at less risk to be re-victimized in order so they can stay free. We also do family reunification. So in some instances, children are running away from home, believing the false promise from the man or the young boy they meet on Facebook or meet in social media that he becomes their boyfriend. They love him. They've never met in person. He convinces them to run away from home and cross the border. Well, she has a loving family. We will help rescue her, and we want to reunite her with that family. She may need some services, but she might not. She might just need some education on how to stay safe online and go home and the family might need some education on grooming and trafficking and online safety. And, we would just reunify them with the family. And then the last is what we would call entrust. This is where we entrust them to a partner NGO, where we rescue, but we've worked with the organization and they're going to take the lead on providing care after the fact. And it's us really trying to embrace our strengths in some countries, in some instances, where rescue is where our strength lies and how to do that. And there are a lot of really great entities who NGO, government run, that provide really great counseling services to kids, and we want to entrust it to them, and we want to tell those stories as often as possible, and sometimes that's difficult to do depending on which of the three they go into. They're reunited with their family. We love to follow up with them and see how they're doing, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have the same phone number that they return our attempts to connect with them. But we absolutely care about what happens afterwards, and we want them to be equipped to stay free long term.
Yeah. Amazing. Um, After you guys do these videos, do you partner with email blasts? And have you guys found a good cadence for your org for releasing content that you find works and is effective?
It's a huge opportunity for us. We do a lot of things well, and there's a lot of things we don't do as well. And, we have visions of why can our documentaries be on the largest streaming platforms out there? How do we get millions of people to watch and know however we reach those people? How do we find the masses who we believe are going to rise up and say enough's enough? We need to take action for these kids. We've got opportunities there. We don't have a golden, ticket solution at this point. I think we're growing and learning. We made a real concerted effort to figure out how to create content. Because 5+ years ago, we struggled with storytelling. We struggled with content. So we had to build content gathering processes and systems. My team has worked really hard to build trust with our rescue teams and our aftercare and reintegration teams. Knowing that we're going to protect the stories, we're going to protect the kids. Almost every story we do goes back to the caseworker or goes back in front of the child, potentially for them to give us the thumbs up that they're happy with how it was, or a guardian, a parent. Like we've built a lot of trust over time to be able to hopefully have a great churn of content. Like there was a point in time years ago where, we'd be lucky if we churned out 2 or 3 blog posts a year. Right now we're doing 2 or 3 a month. And so we had to really focus on backing up, recreating our processes internally, building trust with our teams all over the world, building relationships with our teams, and then starting to build content. And I think we're now in this place where, okay, we have really great content. Now, how do we better use the content? And how do we put it in front of more people, not just our Facebook followers, not just our email subscriber list? How do we find other ways to put this content in front of people? I'm always seeking, always searching for new and better ways and tips and tricks that people have. We don't buy email lists. We just still think that's the right approach. If someone wants to opt in and give us their email, we would love to share things with them, but we're not going to go purchase that list from someone and start sending people email that they didn't ask for. It's just an approach that we take. And so yeah, we have a lot of work to do in this place of how do we get more people to see the films, to see the content in general.
Yeah. Well, hey, it takes time, and sometimes it's a process or multiple processes that all have to come together. So, cool. Well, what's next for Destiny Rescue? You guys have any other initiatives that you are cooking up, or?
Yeah, listen, we're always growing. When you talk about the work itself, we're always trying to become more efficient and always looking to grow. And again, we want to rescue as many as possible year over year and continue to grow in that way. And so, we're exploring new rescue opportunities in new locations. We're working on a new documentary film. Not sure yet of the release time of that, but it will center on our rescue agents in Nepal and what makes them very different, just from a very high level. But they're all female, and it's just a different narrative than what you might see in the anti-trafficking space. So really excited about that story and to highlight the work. And yeah, just we're committed to rescuing. When we have a lot, we rescue. When we have a little, we rescue. We're committed to rescuing all the time. And we want to keep inviting people into this fight with us to join us, and because people can rescue kids. You don't have to go into the terrible brothel or the little karaoke bar on the other side of the world to rescue kids. You can do it actually from the comfort of your own home and have great impact. And our goal is to keep finding new ways of letting people know that. And so I don't know, we have some, I think, never done before ideas of how we bring people close to this work. And, time will tell if they're good ideas. But we need more people to know so that more people will rise up and help in the abuse and the rape of kids all over the world.
Yeah. I'm excited to keep watching and following and see what you guys come up with. I got a couple of last questions before we wrap up. One of them is a little more personal, because as I was watching these stories, I was looking at some of these cities in Southeast Asia or wherever, and these are destinations that people would like to go to just on vacation or whatnot. And you must see some of the ugliest parts of humanity, or like the underbelly of these cities. So what is it that keeps you from letting that side of things get to you? Like, what keeps you going and motivates you?
Wow. That's a good question. Listen, one, I'm a man of faith, and so I lean on that a lot, and lean on God's wisdom and guidance. And He's broken my heart, and He's allowed me to witness things that will haunt me until I die. But He's also helped. Yeah, He's helped me see the work and the impact and the need He's prepared me with my skills and my background. I spent almost 15 years in the corporate world running a large distribution center for a major company. Spent time in sales, spent time in nonprofit consulting. I've been uniquely prepared for this. And so I lean on that, obviously having a great support system, my wife, co-workers, people in my life who, when I need to share, they don't understand always, because they haven't seen it. They haven't maybe experienced it. But at least it's a chance for me to voice it. Our team, we have pastoral care on staff, and our teams can take advantage of that. And we have pastors who are willing to meet with and talk to our teams. And, if you want to get a little bit more official in who you're talking to, we offer some of those benefits as well for just needing someone to talk to and to digest things with. But listen, I'm a dad and I'm a grandpa to a 2.5-year-old little girl. And part of my passion comes from hearing about years ago when my girls were 12 and 9, I heard about a father selling his own daughter, and she was 10. And I just thought to myself, how could that be? How could that be? And then I remember thinking to myself, someday, if I get the opportunity to fight for those kids, I want to fight for those kids. And I was in corporate America at the time, and here I am today fighting for those kids, and thinking about my own kids, thinking about my granddaughter. There's just a lot of passion for me to want to make a difference and help these kids and help these children. And that drives me, and it's easy. It's easy because that passion oftentimes offsets the ugliness. If you and I were to spend a lot of time talking about this issue, Nathan, I would only want to spend about 20 minutes of our entire conversation talking about the darkness, because it's actually demotivating. We see it. People want to put their head in the sand. They don't want to hear about. I mean, we've rescued young children. Recently, a 5-year-old. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to talk. At times they put the earmuffs on, and because they can't process what's happening to children. And if you go too deep into the darkness, it actually makes it feel like it's too much. I can't make a difference. There's more than 1 million kids. What can I do for 1 million kids? I'd much rather spend time talking, 80% of the time, talking about the hope that does exist in rescue. That kids get to go on to be kids, and rescue makes laughing and play possible. Laughing makes school and education possible. Laughing makes rescue makes family in the future possible. It makes small business possible. There is hope that exists in rescue. And if we focus on that side, it's encouraging. It's motivating. You can see the real difference that you can make. And I think that helps me as I work through what I've experienced, and as our teams work through what we experience. My team, as the storytellers, we see all the stories. So we're digesting all of the stuff that's coming in through us, and then we follow up and ask questions and tell him more about that terrible thing, so we can understand how to properly tell it. So anyway, there's a lot of tactics. You just can't carry the burden. Mission fatigue is real. I know a lot of people in nonprofits, they struggle with it. They know there's a greater purpose. If I don't do that thing, I got to do that thing because potentially a child's rescue depends on it. And we have to learn we're not meant to carry that burden. And we have to find a way to release that burden and not be defined by the work. And I think for me, that's helped me process it all over time.
Yeah, amazing. With that, do you have any last piece of advice that you would give to anybody in media and nonprofits, maybe in your position 5 years ago? Any last words of wisdom to leave people with?
I think I would start by saying, in my experience, marketing is the one department that everybody thinks they can run. Because everybody who has a Facebook page or an Instagram account think they know how to run social media. And in today's world, everybody has a camera on their phone, and they think that they know how to make films and they know how to make videos. And there's always a lot of opinions and a lot of criticisms and a lot of expectations that things should go faster than they are, or that you're not doing that right. And I think creating a realistic expectation that that's going to be the case for someone who's creating media and marketing assets, if you can understand that up front, it's much easier to navigate that. I don't go to the I don't go to the chief financial officer and tell him how to do his job and how to run the numbers better. I don't give him my ideas on how to better do bookkeeping. But whatever the reason, in marketing in the media space, people feel like they have some expertise that they want to give you. And listen, sometimes people have good ideas that maybe you haven't thought of, or a suggestion that's worth listening to. But I think the perseverance that comes with creating a realistic expectation that that's going to be the case, and persevering through it, and finding your way and sticking to your way of doing things is super important. And there's a great meme out there that I see pass around about, like, I just applied for, a marketing director because I have a Facebook page. And there's some reality to that. And so anyway, my encouragement would be that you just got to stay the course. You got to persevere through that. And you have to just know that the unwanted ideas, suggestions, feedback, criticism, it's coming because of the nature of what we do in media. And then I think embracing how to tell stories and how to tell them the right way. If you can tell a good story and you can tell it in a way that's ethical and honoring and accurate and transparent and not overblown with flowery details, and I think it goes a long way into building credibility, goes a long way into just really connecting with people, because in today's world, people can easily see through, at least make an opinion about, that's too good to be true, or whatever, that sounds way too, there's no way that's what really happened, because it just seems too far-fetched. So yeah, I don't know if that's good advice or not, to be honest. But for us, really focusing on how we tell the story and trying to do it the right way, and inspiration and not manipulation, especially in the nonprofit space. I think there's a lot you can accomplish when you take that approach. And some people aren't going to like that approach, and that's where some of that unwanted feedback will come from. But I think it pays dividends in the long run. So.
Absolutely. Hey, I think perseverance in the midst of unwarranted criticism is a great advice. So,
well, as a creative, Nathan, you know this better than anybody. I mean, you have an idea, you put it out there, there's a good chance people are going to like it.
Yep, that's true.
And it's just part of being a creative. And, but you won't know that they don't like it unless you do it.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, I want to know that I did everything I could creatively to try to help rescue kids. And, I don't want to hold it in and someday regret that, man, I really should have taken that idea and done something with it, because I was too concerned about how it was going to be received or that, So I think perseverance and finding your way and focusing on the right way, I think it gets you along. I think it will take you down the road really far if you focus in those areas.
Yeah, amazing.
And if there's anybody listening, Nathan, I got to maybe end with the plug. I mean, if there is anybody listening to this that one would love to connect at some point and talk about media and marketing and storytelling of what we're doing at Destiny Rescue, or would love to share more ideas with me, I would love to figure out how to connect. if there are people listening that say, hey, I want to help kids and I want to know more about what I can do to rescue kids, we would love to talk to those people and show them how they can have a life altering impact on young kids all over the world. And so, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today and
Absolutely.
Just share. I don't know if any of it, is valuable, but
I think it definitely is.
I got a lot of opinions and I've had a lot of experiences, and I hope there's one thing that somebody might have heard that said that's helpful to me. And if so, then I feel like it was a good time well spent.
Absolutely. Well, where can people find you? Where can people go to watch some of the stuff that we talked about?
Yeah, so destinyrescue.org is the website, and we do have a video or gallery that you can typically get to from the top navigation bar going to the bottom. You can find us on all the socials, Destiny Rescue, on Twitter and X and Instagram and Facebook, YouTube. We're out there. We're TikTok to some extent. So all those places, will lead you somewhere. A lot of times to the website where you can learn more about what we do and see some of the films and some of the videos that we've put together.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, Aaron, hey, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, listen, thanks again for having me. Best of luck on the podcast and all that you're doing to try to help nonprofits in this space. It's many need it. They need the help. They don't know how to do it, or they don't have the resources to do it. And it's fun to watch what you're doing to try to help organizations. So again, thanks for having me, and I wish you the best of luck.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to our channels for future content. It really helps us out. This podcast is brought to you by Travelite Studios. Travelite is a full-service film production company that specializes in documentary and promotional videos for your nonprofit. We are a multicultural team of award-winning creatives with a passion to help organizations grow their reach. We can be your media team or work alongside your media team to deliver captivating content that energizes your audience. Travelite takes the time to truly get to know you and your needs and includes extra tools to help make your videos be the most powerful they can be. Go to travelitestudios.com right now to plan a project and have your story and solutions presented to viewers in a beautifully compelling way. That's travelitestudios.com.